What are all the things that could go wrong when people use social media? Let's get started with number 7. Thanks for all the proof. Levi Watson was talked to by the police about his possible role as a contraband dealer in a gang. Of course, Watson said he had no connection to the gang and claimed to be flat broke. Broke as a joke. Then, like the criminal mastermind he is, he posted pictures on social media that would make Tony Montana blush, completely contradicting his broke claim. Every brag was like a breadcrumb leading the authorities straight to his illicit empire. Because if you're going to break the law and lie to the police, you should always post it on social media. If you don't, how are people going to know how awesome you are? And how will they even know about your criminal empire? The police had a front row seat to Watson's ostentatious displays, gathering all the evidence they needed from his social media accounts. Watson's fatal flaw, aside from brain power, was his need for the limelight. Watson uploaded posts of himself with Rolexes, one post with a white Ferrari like he was making a calendar or something, and another post where he was literally bathing himself in money. The tub was filled with 20-pound notes, which is still a lot of money, but it's a bit underwhelming too. If you're bragging about how excessively wealthy you are, shouldn't it have 100-pound notes? Just saying. Also, that money was probably filthy, so there's that. Other brags included some watches on the gear stick of a Porsche Panamera with the caption asking you, personally, have seen 100,000. Politely, Watson says that if you hadn't, then it looks like that. Now you've seen it, thanks to Watson, and you can go about your day with your brain a bit fuller. Another picture showed Jamaican $1,000 bills and a gold watch with the caption, when you're sitting on over $250,000, but you tell them it's pennies. That way, if police weren't sure if Watson was lying about being flat broke, he let them know he was. The police were like, wait, you mean those bills aren't pennies? They were probably so confused. Watson also seemed to be unsure about what's a chair and what's not. Sitting on watches will break them, Levi. They're not chairs. The pictures became evidence of his shady dealings, basically doing all the police work that needed to be done. How was Watson possibly going to explain his posts while being flat broke? But instead of showing any sort of remorse, Watson bragged about his imminent prison sentence. Obviously, everyone thinks going to prison is cool, so why not brag about it? Watson also bragged about his notorious achievements in the contraband trade, painting himself as a larger-than-life anti-hero. His unapologetic demeanor fueled public outrage, making him both a target of scorn and a symbol of audacity in the face of justice. Watson, in a brazen move, released a song that glorified his criminal exploits. He also released a video for it that appears to follow all COVID safety protocols, because following all COVID safety protocols is pretty gangsta. Of course, he tried to have a music career. This guy is as dumb as he is cliche. The provocative tracks sparked heated debates, with critics questioning the morality of profiting from illegal activities. Apparently, these critics have never listened to a hip-hop track, if that's what they're stuck on. Ultimately, the authorities made significant progress in dismantling the contraband ring, leading to the arrest of 12 other individuals involved in the operation. Levi Watson was just one among the many apprehended, facing severe consequences for his role. Watson received a 7-year prison sentence, then bragged about that on social media as well. In another post, next to a picture of rapper Bobby Shmurda, Watson says that they gave him Shmurda years. So he smiled at the judge when he said 7. Shmurda was handed 7 years in prison for his crimes a few years back. Man, that judge was probably so embarrassed that Levi smiled at him when he got his sentence. So when Watson was sent to his prison cell, the judge probably drove home to his big house and felt so mad and humiliated. He probably looked at himself in the mirror and said something like, well, you won this round, Watson. You really showed me. And then slouched in his leather recliner and watched his big screen TV, wishing he had it all figured out like the guy he just sent to prison does. Number 6. Crashing for YouTube. Christopher and Kimberly Phelps from Yucaipa, California, are in hot water for their outrageous antics. These two brains are accused of causing car crashes on purpose, all in the name of scoring fraudulent insurance payouts. But here's where we learn what brain power truly is. The two had a YouTube channel called Blue3Go57, where over 160 videos were posted showcasing their intentional crashes. We're talking heart-stopping collisions, near misses, and hair-raising road rage incidents. These videos became became a digital fingerprint of their deliberate actions. The San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department caught wind of the YouTube channel and teamed up with the California Department of Insurance to bring them to justice. It was a high-stakes investigation involving search warrants, countless hours of video analysis, and even social media investigation to track down more victims. That said, the investigation was probably set on easy mode since the best place to hide video evidence of crimes is on YouTube. If it wasn't for their idiotic desire for fame, the Phelpses might have gotten away with it, but they just had to be YouTube stars, flaunting their crimes for all to see. And if their wild antics weren't enough, the Phelps couple also faced charges of child endangerment. They had their own innocent kid in the car during some of their reckless stunts, because it's always best to have a kid in the car when you're intentionally getting in accidents. How could that possibly go wrong, you know? Christopher had already been nabbed once before for similar charges. You'd think he would have learned his lesson, but nope. Now he and his partner in crime, Kimberly, are looking at a bunch of charges. It looks like the Phelpses ultimately got the fame they wanted and a free stay in a bigger house. Parents of the Year awards are likely on the way. Number 5. The Show-Off Gang. Salvador and Ivan Ramirez, brothers from Long Beach, California, orchestrated a series of heists that had law enforcement on their toes. The duo, along with their gang, went on a crime spree that left a trail of disbelief. Accused of running a criminal empire, the Ramirez brothers faced an impressive number of charges. Over 100 crimes are attributed to their name. Ma and Pa Ramirez are probably so proud. The brothers struck fear into the hearts of the Indian community, renowned for their opulent gold jewelry worn during traditional rituals and cultural festivals. What made the Ramirez brothers true masters of their craft was their ability to vanish without a trace. Like ghosts, they left no DNA or fingerprints behind, always one step ahead of the law. Their planning and attention to detail meant that not a shred of evidence remained at the crime scenes. But while their crimes remained hidden, the Ramirez brothers couldn't resist the urge to brag online. They took to social media, flaunting their ill-gotten gains for the world to see. They posted pictures of exquisite watches, gleaming gold bars, and stacks of cash that would make anyone's heart skip a beat. Little did they know, these pictures would serve as their downfall, leading the authorities straight to their doorstep. The Ramirez brothers were as meticulous as they were brain dead. They scoured the internet for information, identifying families with common Indian surnames as potential targets. Their use of disposable mobile phones ensured their anonymity, while their elegant attire and luxury vehicles allowed them to blend seamlessly into the background. And their reign of crime knew no boundaries. They ventured far and wide, crisscrossing California and even leaving their mark in the neighboring state of Nevada. All in all, the burglary gang stole over $1 million in gold jewelry and were said to have been committing 2 burglaries a week before getting caught. It seems like a whole lot of work to just tell on yourself on social media, doesn't it? Number 4. Shining Light. Kevin Gaines Jr. was apprehended by Florida deputies after a chase that played out live on Instagram. The fugitive had been on the run for weeks, wanted on a string of charges, including a carjacking. A deputy had seen the car Gaines was believed to be driving at a residence in DeLand, Florida. As they closed in on their target, Gaines started live streaming his every move on Instagram because, hey, anything for views, right? The internet would totally think he was cool for the entire length of his stream, and then it would immediately forget it. Despite knowing Gaines' location, officers still had to move cautiously as Gaines was known to carry weapons and was said to be dangerous. Knowing his precise location inside the house could help keep everyone safe, but how could officers know where he was? As Gaines continued his live stream, the deputies shined a powerful spotlight through a window, and there was the light captured in the background of the live stream. Now deputies knew exactly where he was. Undeterred by the presence of friends and relatives who tried to protect Gaines, the police stormed the house, ready to bring the chase to an end. Gaines' friends attempted to deceive the officers, claiming he wasn't inside, and one woman even went so far as to bet $100 that Gaines wasn't there. Like the cop was going to say, "Oh, you're on," or, "Oh, wow, he must not really be here if she's willing to put money down on it. Yeah, we should go." Eventually, Gaines emerged from the house, and the deputies wasted no time in arresting him. Gaines had a history of run-ins with the law, such as having been arrested for carjacking. Well, he faced additional charges, which included grand theft auto, resisting a law enforcement officer, and fleeing law enforcement. Number 3. Lance Armstronging. Andy Airey was a cyclist from Bristol in the UK. Airey's life took a jolting detour during his daily commute in 2015 when he was knocked off his bike. The driver quickly admitted fault, leaving the insurance company QBE to cover the damages. But as the wheels of suspicion began to turn, QBE engaged the services of the formidable law firm Berrymans, Lace and Maurer, confusingly known as BLM. QBE wanted to dig deeper into Airey's claims, particularly focusing on his alleged knee injury. The fraud intelligence team at BLM delved into Airey's Airey's social media presence and uncovered a series of posts both before and after the accident. Astonishingly, just before undergoing a medical examination to support his claim in March 2016, Airey shared Strava activities showcasing his running, cycling, and even participation in triathlons. The most damning evidence was a recorded bike ride on the very day of his medical examination. You're probably thinking, wow, all of that on a bum knee. Impressive. Why is this hero in trouble? Sorry, Airey has played you for the fool as well. His knee injury was fake. For those unfamiliar, Strava is a popular fitness tracking app used by athletes and fitness enthusiasts to record their activities, including running, cycling, and swimming. Users can share their accomplishments and progress with the Strava community. When confronted with this undeniable proof, Airey's own medical expert acknowledged that the road traffic collision couldn't have caused his alleged knee injury. He said it was more likely due to a pre-existing degenerative condition, probably the same one found in his brain. Realizing the weight of the evidence against him, Airey withdrew his claim for damage. However, BLM continued to pursue Airey, leading to a trial in Bristol County Court. The judge ruled that Airey's intention was to associate his knee injury with the 2015 collision, labeling his actions as fundamentally dishonest. Consequently, Airey was ordered to pay the defendant's costs, amounting to around £40,000. The impact of this case extended beyond his personal penalty. QBE, the insurer, managed to save approximately £145,000 in damages and legal expenses. So thank heavens for that. We're sure they passed those savings right on to the consumer. Number 2. Caught in a snap. In an incredibly stupid sequence of events, Christopher Wallace, and no, not that Christopher Wallace, sealed his own fate with a series of major blunders that led the police straight to him. With a manhunt underway, the Somerset County Sheriff's Office was determined to track down Wallace, who was wanted in connection with a burglary. Wallace, in a move that can only be described as dumb, decided to broadcast his location to the world through Snapchat. First, he posted a Snapchat message proudly announcing his return to his home in Fairfield, Maine, while being aware of the search, because he's dumb. That post, unsurprisingly, didn't go unnoticed. Quick-thinking citizens who spotted Wallace's announcement wasted no time in tipping off authorities. So, the officers stormed Wallace's residence, and as they searched the premises, a new Snapchat message came in. It was Wallace, being slick now that the police were in the same house as he was, posting that he was heading to a different location to throw police off so he could make another escape. Just kidding, he actually revealed his hiding spot in the post, which was in a cabinet in the kitchen. The cops, already actively searching the house, found him by his feet, which were sticking out of one of the cabinets. So Christopher got himself arrested, which seems like it was going to be inevitable. Christopher's friend, Erica Hall, was also arrested for telling police she hadn't seen him in weeks while he was hiding in the kitchen behind her. Be sure to stay right on this video to find out how this guy robbed a bank and then just basically told everyone on social media. Number 1. Fairy tale fraud. Amanda Zeminski was a nurse at South Shore Physicians in Staten Island. During her tenure at the medical practice, Zeminski hatched an ingenious plan to amass a fortune. Exploiting her access to personal information, Zeminski stole patients' identities, targeting the vulnerable and unsuspecting elderly. Amanda teamed up with her boyfriend, Clyde C-Money CEO Forteau, a name likely given to him by another CEO of a Fortune 500 company, we're sure. And together, they embarked on a daring spree of extravagant spending. Imagine a life filled with lavish jewelry, courtside seats at electrifying sports events, and even a romantic rendezvous in the magical realm of Disney World. They were living the dream afforded to them by the hard work of identity theft. Facebook became their personal gallery of opulence. C-Money CEO Forteau proudly boasted about his proximity to Jay-Z during a Jets game and his position in front of the late Aaron Hernandez, the infamous former New England Patriot tight end, at Game 6 of the NBA semifinals. Zeminski also proudly displayed her dazzling engagement ring, a symbol of their love and their love of identity theft, given to her at the enchanting Cinderella's castle. Their escapades eventually got the attention of law enforcement. In a turn of events, investigators uncovered a trail of evidence connecting Zeminski and Forteau to their scheme, all from their social media bragging. Surprise, surprise. Their victims, the unsuspecting elderly people, had their lives turned upside down. Their bank accounts were emptied, fraudulent credit cards were opened in their names, and even their tax refunds were stolen through bogus income tax returns. The duo's ill-gotten gains amounted to $675,000. As fate would have it, Zeminski's reign of deception met a sudden end when she was unceremoniously terminated from her job for lying about how many hours she worked. The truth began unraveling, and the police closed on the couple's extravagant facade. Forteau's sleek BMW 7 Series that he worked so hard to steal through fraud became a treasure trove of incriminating evidence. Police seized over 50 credit cards and a cache of stolen and forged driver's licenses. During the investigation, the police also seized a collection of Rolex watches adorned with dazzling jewels, a money clip engraved with Forteau's nickname, as well as patient files and a substantial amount of cash. Facing the consequences of their crimes, Zemensky, Forteau, and their cohorts are on trial. Charges including identity theft, enterprise corruption, and a litany of other criminal counts hang over their heads. If convicted, they could be looking at a substantial prison sentence, fitting end to their once glamorous lives of crime and ill-gotten opulence. Hey, at least Forteau is still a CEO, right? If you type AC4Os or Intro 4Os into your Google search bar, you'll find a music video written and performed by Orlando AC4Os Henderson. The song kicks off Henderson's album called Straight Out of the Cleaners, and the album's cover features AC standing in a laundromat flicking a $100 bill at the camera as he blows a puff of smoke. However, the album cover isn't nearly as interesting as the music video, which begins with Henderson rapping as the video cross-cuts between two locations. In one spot, Henderson is sitting shirtless on a blue couch, waving around a gun. The other scene shows Henderson dancing in a gas station while holding a wad of cash. Waving dollar bills around or making it rain in music videos is quite common, a cliche by modern standards. But cash truly is everything to Henderson. His life motto is "Ain't wit being broke," a simple phrase he uses in every facet of his life and business. But while it's easy to print the saying on t-shirts and sing it in rap songs, avoiding financial hardship can be difficult, especially if you're like Henderson, who in 2013 dropped far below broke. In 2013, Henderson filed for Chapter 13 bankruptcy, owing over $26,000 to various creditors. In July, Henderson agreed to pay them $447 per month for 60 months. However, in August, the administrators filed a motion in court to dismiss Henderson's case. Their reason? AC4Os neglected to attend a 341 meeting between him and his creditors. A 341 meeting is like an interrogation of the person in debt. It's a chance for the creditors to question them under oath about their assets and liabilities. He also failed to show up for his debtor education class, a program that helps people with poor money management skills learn how to avoid debt, which was a part of the terms he supposedly agreed to in court. Henderson was horrible with money and clearly could not be trusted. It only seems fitting that he'd eventually get a job at the bank. As you can probably guess, that bank was Wells Fargo. Henderson began working at their Charlotte location as a vault runner. To put it bluntly, the man who went bankrupt 6 years ago received the literal key to a vault filled with millions of dollars. Henderson started his new job in April of 2019. In their indictment, investigators believe Henderson wasted no time in stealing money. After working at the bank for 2 months, Henderson hatched a brilliant idea. He could steal money from the vault whenever a customer made a deposit. However, he knew he'd have to start small, so Henderson's first score was only $446. Coincidentally, $1 less than what he'd agreed to pay his creditors back in 2013. Nobody seemed to be missing the money. To Henderson, the scheme was a success. Henderson decided to steal a little bit less the next time. Perhaps he wasn't ready to press his luck. Not just yet. His second swipe amounted to $200. A few days later, Henderson strolled back into the vault and stole another $411. You would think that someone would notice if $1,000 went missing. Apparently, nobody did. Henderson knew the bank would eventually catch on. He was smart enough to come up with ways to cover his tracks, but dumb enough to think they'd work. He created false deposit documents and even went as far as to destroy real documents filled out by customers. If there was no paper trail of the deposit, how could anyone prove the money was there to begin with? Henderson's clever cover-ups worked at first, as no one seemed to notice. To launder the stolen cash, Henderson deposited the money in a nearby ATM. Seeing the money falling into his bank account must have looked good, because the next day, on June 21st, Henderson came into work and scraped another $850 from a customer's account. From the 21st onward, a massive shift occurred in Henderson's thinking. After that $850 was deposited, the Carolina rapper started taking his embezzlement scheme to new and dangerous heights. According to investigative records, on June 24th, Henderson stole $5,400. The very next day, he stole another $5,000. The day after that, he downsized to $1,300. After the 26th, Henderson took a 5-day hiatus from ripping off Wells Fargo customers. He probably felt like he deserved a vacation. However, the hiatus only served as a consolidation period. Henderson was already riding down a slippery slope, which felt more like a high, if anything. He continued to steal cash from the vaults, this time in far larger amounts. Henderson's increasing payload played out like a 3-act play. He began slowly with the first $400, taking baby steps until he was stealing a few thousand here and there. By the show's climax, Henderson had stolen over $13,000 in one day before ending on one last $3,000 score, his final farewell. The grand total added up to $88,000. So, what did Henderson do with the money he stole? As mentioned before, he put some in his bank account. The deposited money, specifically $20,000, was used to put a down payment on a brand new shiny white Mercedes-Benz. Besides the car, Henderson kept most of the cash in his home, prompting one of his friends to comment on how strange it was that he kept it lying around. He wondered if Henderson had ever heard of a bank. Of course, Henderson knew more than most about banks. He knew enough about banks to forge statements, which Henderson used to finance his 2019 Mercedes, which he spent more time taking pictures of than actually driving. Henderson made sure his social media followers knew how good 2019 had been to him. One post from July 6th shows 4 photos of Henderson with 3 stacks that probably add up to $30K. The first photo depicts Henderson hiding his face behind a fan of cash as if he's playing cards. The second was a candid shot of Henderson making it rain, and the third shows him, after apparently picking the money up, holding the greenbacks in 3 stacks thicker than a Harry Potter book. Then, on September 9th, Henderson posted a selfie with his white Benz. He stood in the foreground holding a blue designer bag in his right hand, while the left gestured to the camera. And if you look close enough, you could see a shiny Gucci belt wrapped around his waist. Though there's no flaunted cash in this post, you get the message. Henderson ain't wit being broke, but not so good at writing captions. Under the Benz selfie, Henderson wrote, "Brand new deposit," followed by a box emoji, an airplane, a big van, and a handicap sign. In the first post, Henderson claims he got the money out the mud after he made it out the trenches, followed by a broken down home emoji and a camera to signify where he supposedly came from and where he is now. In other words, if you were an ignorant social media scroller and happened upon Henderson's posts in 2019, you'd think he was a remarkable rags to riches story, not a lower middle-class man in his late 20s who stole from the bank vaults at Wells Fargo. Eventually, reality would creep up on Henderson. Eventually, bank officials became suspicious and called in investigators to determine why and how $88,000 was missing from their vault. After examining each employee, one stood above the rest. The only employee posting pictures with large amounts of cash, expensive clothes, designer accessories, and a luxury car that far surpassed his pay grade. On December 4th, 5 months after his first theft, the FBI arrested Henderson in San Diego. He was brought to a federal detention center, informed of his 19 charges, including theft, embezzlement, 12 counts of fabricating false entries, and money laundering. The feds then provided Henderson with a public defender named Benjamin Davis, who did not bother to defend his client when reporters called for interviews. Eventually, federal officials moved Henderson to the crime scene, North Carolina. Not long after his cross-state move, Henderson pleaded guilty to all charges in a federal court in Charlotte. The date was March 20th, meaning Henderson was moved around by feds like a wayward Amazon package between December and March. Nevertheless, Henderson still managed to release a new rap single. The single was called, and we're not making this up, First Day Out. On January 11th, only a few weeks after being detained by the FBI, Henderson officially released the song on YouTube. Say what you will about Orlando Henderson, but even his harshest critics have to admit he has impeccable timing. Henderson was formally charged for his crimes and is staring down the barrel of a hefty prison sentence and multi-million-dollar fine. However, Henderson is currently a free man, as he's innocent until proven guilty in court. While his case moves through the process, Henderson seems to think everything's fine. Scrolling through his social media pages, you'd never think anything bad happened. The free man posted his homecoming on Facebook, saying he was ready to conquer the summer, and conquer he did. Throughout the summer of 2021 and the subsequent fall months, Henderson wanted his followers to know he was still, quote, ain't wit being broke. 2 days after announcing his return home, Henderson posted a picture of himself on Facebook wearing a hoodie with the caption, "He put up for a min." Then, on August 28th, he posted a picture of himself standing in front of his white Mercedes captioned, "Somewhere in the trenches in that same Benz," implying he still owns the Mercedes he bought back in 2019. It seems very very odd that Henderson was able to keep the Mercedes after financing the vehicle with a falsified loan application. There is a possibility the photo Henderson posted was taken in 2019, and he added the caption to mislead people into thinking he kept the car, leaving his actual living circumstances in a shroud of fake hustle game mystery. We may never know what Henderson is really up to, but perhaps we can try to understand why. Ain't wit being broke is much more than a phrase to Henderson. It's a mindset. He lives and dies by the mantra, ain't wit being broke. He named his own record label after the motto and printed the logo on his t-shirts. However, ain't wit being broke doesn't mean Henderson avoids being broke. No, it means he avoids looking broke, as evidenced by Henderson's social media posts and the brutal reality printed on court and state documents. Ain't wit being broke is more like an exposed nerve or a real-life Achilles heel. When struck, it reveals its owner's most profound insecurities. Henderson will eventually face the music once the state is satisfied with the case against him. Until then, he remains innocent until proven guilty. Click to watch one of these next videos. Let us know in the comments section what you'd rather do. Not post on social media for a year or have $1,000 instead.